Today's youth need teachers, volunteers, and most of all, well, they need you. I'm Doug Edwards, and I'm going to be talking with real youth mentors and students to give you the knowledge you need to be the best youth worker possible. This is Youth Worker on Fire. Hi, I'm Doug Edwards, and today on Youth Worker on Fire, we have a very special guest, friend of mine, Leslie Campione. And Leslie, she wears a lot of hats. She's a mom, she's a lawyer, she's a county commissioner, but even more than that, the impact she had when she was a student at her high school was amazing. And we're going to cover all those areas today in this episode of Youth Worker on Fire. Today we have Leslie Campione, who is also a lawyer. She's also county commissioner, just wears a lot of hats. She's a mom, also has a son that's, what's Chris doing?
Well, Chris just graduated from law school.
Oh, that's
that
great.
Was a big day a couple of weeks ago, and he decided in the process to get his MBA, his master's in business, so he did that at the same time. So that was a really proud day for this mom and the whole family. Yeah. And he was a Eustis High School grad. So,
and so were you.
Yes, I was, many, many years ago.
Yeah, that's right. How many siblings do you have?
Well, I have two brothers.
Okay.
They're a couple years older than me. One was 3 years older and one was 4 years older than me, and they both graduated from Eustis High School.
Yeah. Just quite a good heritage here. We're fortunate to be able to use this place to do some filming and stuff. In fact, not many places have a facility like this in the county. And not many counties, in fact. This is a unique situation, so appreciate those guys. And I know you've had some people that have influenced you in your life. And so we're talking especially about adolescence to college and everything in between there. Tell me about some people that, and it could be professional, it could be coaches, teachers, it could be youth pastors, whatever, volunteers in the community. Tell me some people who have had influence on your life when you're that age.
Wow. A lot of people, and so many of them I still run into from time to time here in Lake County and Eustis area. Definitely coaches. I mean, coaches were a huge influence just because you spend so much time in that situation with your coaches. And if they're a good coach, they're not just concerned about the outcome of the competition or the sport or what have you. It's about the whole team and the dynamics of the team and the people, the individuals within the team.
Yeah.
Those are the ones that, I mean, they definitely stand out. Not that there weren't others. I mean, I was thinking about that earlier. I mean, even back to elementary school. I mean, I still remember my third, fourth, fifth grade teachers and the impact that they had on me, and just things about them that I would find very special and I would want to emulate. Just the way that they took an interest in people. They really cared about the details about other people's lives. Yeah.
Does anybody stand out, or at one particular moment in time stand out that there was an aha moment for you because of the influence of someone like that? Could have been multiple moments, but I mean,
I think that, definitely, and you may have heard this from other kids that graduated from Eustis High School, Clark Blake was a tremendous influence on, I think, everyone who went through his classroom.
Yes.
Just because of his energy and his dynamic personality. He brought the information that we were reading in books alive, and he had really great ways to do that, to get the class involved. And I knew him as well through the Fellowship of Christian Athletes. So we spent a lot of time together during those years. And the thing about it is that at the time, because you're young and you're so focused on your little world, you don't realize how much these people around you that are volunteering and giving up their time to be involved in young people's lives, how much that's really affecting their life. What they're giving up, the sacrifices they're making, to be involved in other people's lives and to volunteer. So I probably one of those aha moments in realizing that, hey, this is a real person. He's got his own life, and yet he cares so much about helping other people and nurturing other people and their development, that he's giving up his own personal time. We went to Black Mountain for a camp for a week, and his wife came along, and it was like, who is that person? Because we were so focused on him. We saw
That's
him
right.
all the time. And here she was, and then they had their little boys with them. And, we were unpacking our stuff and realizing that he had to take care of those people as well, and he was looking out for us. And it just hit me, wow, this guy, like, he really cares about us because, he's got his own life, but
I
he's
thought about
also
that.
putting,
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah, and I think about that a lot today. As I got older, it really hit me, that really was a big sacrifice, and it takes a big commitment for volunteers.
Yeah, and number one, he was doing his profession to be a teacher and a coach, but it was not his profession that was his volunteer hours to be Fellowship Christian Athletes FCA,
definitely.
and then to go on retreats. And then, that's just
and even
way
coaches,
over and above.
the coaches, sure, they give them a stipend. And I learned this after I came back to Lake County. And after Chris, the son that we were just talking about, was born, I took a little time off before I went back to work. And I say took time off. I actually went down, I got my certificate that I needed, and I coached the swim team here at Eustis High School for a couple seasons. And so I realized at that point, you don't make a whole lot of money, doing that extra coaching. You have to have a love and a heart for it.
Yeah. You're spending more money than you're making.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And I think about these teachers and coaches who have young children, and they've got to find help with those kids while they're going out and they're coaching and doing these things. So
that's right.
That it kind of hit me at that point, and then later as time went on, I think I really, realized the impact that coaches and teachers and mentors had on my life. But there are a number. In fact, I was just talking to Coach Cruz. He helped me find my way back here.
Yeah.
And he was a favorite teacher too. And he was a guy that he spent a lot of time with his students, and he cared about what was going on in your life, and as you were trying to figure out what were you going to do next. And he kind of helped you think through those things. And
that's right. And he's retired and actually come back.
Yes.
To help some. So I was surprised when you just mentioned his name.
Yes.
I remember a few weeks ago I was here and he was back. And so what are you doing here? So
and I think about the youth pastor at our church growing up. Again, just someone who would take the time. Sunday school teachers.
Who's the youth pastor at that time?
Well, we had a couple different youth pastors. So we had a few that were with us for a year or two and they were gone. But I was just thinking about Bill Crow. And he was a Sunday school teacher, and he was awesome. He was a great influence. I don't know if you remember Terry Cleaver, her mother, Miss Latimer at the time, and she was a GA instructor, which was an organization back in the day.
Yes, I remember that organization.
Yeah. So there were, quite a few people along the way. Coach Jacobs, he was our basketball coach. He was amazing.
And what were your sports that you loved most? How many sports did you play?
Well, I played basketball. I played volleyball. I was on the swim team. And then during football season, I was on the cheerleading squad for football season because they broke them up into the different sports and seasons.
So you didn't have enough to do.
No. But it's hard to say what was my favorite. I love swimming. Swimming was
you love people too, don't you?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So not only are you, when you're doing the sports things, you gain a lot of energy, you're producing a lot of energy, but you've got all of these personalities and friendships that are developing.
Right. Yeah. No question. Each team was different. Each year was different depending on who was graduating and who were the newcomers. I love swimming. That had this sort of individual component of it that you really just had to dig deep sometimes to jump in that pool when it was freezing cold or you really didn't want to be, doing a workout. But basketball and volleyball, these were great because, you were working as a team and you had all those dynamics. And our coach was really cool. He had graduated from the Citadel.
Yeah.
And his wife had played basketball at the College of Charleston.
Really?
And so she would come down and sometimes help with the practices. And we definitely looked up to him. Well, of course, he was about 6'8", I think, so we really looked up to him.
They really looked up to him. Yeah.
But it was just neat to have a coach that had come out of, competitive college basketball.
Yes.
And,
he came with some real knowledge, some personal.
Yes.
He knew what he was facing and what you guys would be facing.
Yeah, he was a good coach. He was one of those quiet. He didn't really lose his cool. He was like really quiet, but if he did get mad, you knew it.
Yeah, especially because he's quiet most of the time.
Yes,
yeah,
yes, but very pensive. Thought about things a lot. But we spent a lot of time working on plays, and it was just very technical. Yeah. So.
Well, I want to make sure we hit a couple things, so I'm going to take us where you are right now and talk about that. And I want you to tell me about how that plays into the political world that you're in, as well as the legal world. Those things play in all of our lives when we go from this point and we're dealing with people over here and other arenas. We also want to make sure we hit Fellowship of Christian Athletes, because you had a huge part in that. Once again, volunteer hours for you. Once again, crazy hours for students. That was like 6:30.
Very early.
Yeah. Exactly. And I personally, from what Clark Blake has told me, just the things that happened while you were there, because it was before I came into the picture here. Tell me about being county commissioner and how some of those influences from the past, as well as being an attorney. Tell me how those things have kind of dovetailed. Some things had to have.
Yeah, they definitely do. They intersect, no question. I think, a big part of it is keeping things in perspective. And I really try hard to understand when people come to me with an issue or a problem they're trying to solve in the county. I really try to put myself in their shoes. And then I think about it in terms of how can we bring other people together that have similar interests. And it's really important, I think, to build consensus, because it's really hard to get things done if you don't have folks on board.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's a big part of it. I also, problem solving from the legal side of it, it's just so important to be able to kind of get in both shoes, on both sides of an issue, and then think through, okay, what are the downsides? What are the negative things? Even if we pursue this policy, who could we potentially negatively affect? Because you're trying to achieve one goal and you don't want to, in the process of trying to fix something or address something, you actually create another set of problems. And so I have to keep my political philosophy in mind at all times to remind me that you can't fix everything, and rules and regulations aren't the way necessarily to make things happen. Sometimes you have to have limitations in place. But the ideal situation is when you get people on board and they want to make things happen or they want to change something. We're working on a program in Lake County right now called Keep Lake Beautiful. And it's really near and dear to my heart because I just feel that people want to affect their community in a positive way.
Yes.
And sometimes they just need an outlet, a way to participate. And Keep Lake Beautiful is a focus kind of on the aesthetics, and so you're able to provide volunteer opportunities for people that want to get out, whether it's picking up litter or working on a blighted area or addressing, a situation. We've had some projects where volunteers go into elementary schools and they just volunteer their time digging up weeds and old
and
plants.
Students see this.
Yeah, and I think it affects them. It impacts them, definitely. It gives them a better place to come to and learn. And I think like in the elementary schools, it helps the parents. It just improves everyone's sort of attitude and, the way they feel about where they're going every day to learn. And
Totally impactful. I think it's long-term impact. One thing that my wife and I realized with youth is that we took Christopher and all of our children, but Chris, to a movie, and Chris because your Christopher used to play basketball.
Right.
We used to hang out together and play some baseball, but we took him to a Disney movie, and he was like year and a half, 2 years old maybe. Something very bad, tough to a family. It was a Disney movie, so it wasn't that bad, but it was real life, and something happened to the father, and he just started crying and screaming. And we were going, what is wrong with this kid, And then we went back and read later that about 6 months later, that from a year and a half, kids get it visually. They know what's happening in the world. And so when you're in elementary school, you're bringing all these elements in. You're bringing people from the outside that are not a part, they're not the teacher. even though the teachers are influencing them. They're not the coach, they're not the administrator, but there's volunteers and they're picking weeds, or they're doing something that some people wouldn't even do. It affects those guys. They're calculating, they're thinking, they're processing, and it's carrying on. You talked about, your elementary school days. You remember people from there.
Absolutely.
So those things that you're doing in Lake County on every level there are hugely impacting short-term and long-term. And by the way, we do have the best county in the state, I believe.
I think so.
Yeah,
and you travel a lot, I do too, and I see other places, and I come back here, and I think this really is a special place. There's no question about it.
It's an oasis. It really is.
It is, and that's another challenge is, how do we protect that? Sometimes you try to protect something, you can actually create more problems or do more damage, and so that's a real delicate thing that we have to work through. And I think that, over the past 10, probably 20 years, the county has done a good job and the cities have done a good job trying to get some regulations in place that actually sort of guide and direct development so that as we get more growth pressure because of the Wekiva Parkway coming in, which they bumped that schedule up 2 years.
Really?
So they are getting ready, in fact, to have a public meeting in a few weeks on the State Road 46 portion that will tie into 441. And there'll be a whole new design there, a flyover. It will be
impacting more land.
It will definitely impact accessibility of Lake County, which from our standpoint, it'll be nice. It'll make it that much more convenient for us to make that trip to Orlando to the airport. But it certainly will make us, closer to the folks that might want to
move out
come this direction. And that's a really important thing that I'm trying to focus on, and I know the other commissioners are focusing on, and that is how do we bring businesses to Lake County that have, that would provide high wage job opportunities, opportunities for kids that are
positive impact.
A positive impact through the types of jobs that would be available. And not just rooftops. We don't want to be just a bedroom community for folks to go to Orlando and have a good paying job. We would like to have those jobs here in Lake County. When we get that element into our county, Lake County economy, I think at that point we will see some significant positive changes. I think it will impact our schools. It will impact our access to resources that can help in so many different ways.
And I worked in South Lake County for about 5.5 years when there was nothing but groves, and the Disney people understood that. They were living in Claremont. I got to work with some of their children, some of the guys who built it, and engineers and workers, and they saw the oasis of where this was, and now I'm seeing businesses that are hidden, that are world impact businesses that are in our county already.
Right. We have a lot of that. We have a lot of manufacturers. I think, and this was surprising to me, the fact that we have so many niche manufacturers in Lake County. We have over 300 manufacturers in Lake County. And that's actually our largest employment sector under healthcare and education. So it's having a big effect. We need more educational opportunities that are geared towards the manufacturers and their workforce needs.
Vocational.
Yes, Lake Tech is expanding. Fortunately, we got great support from Representative Metz and Senator Hayes, Representative Marlene O'Toole. I'm trying to think, there were a group of them, Representative Sullivan. We got a lot of great support to expand Lake Tech's manufacturing program. And so that should be, you'll see that over the next 6 to 12 months. They will be opening up the Lake Tech Advanced Manufacturing Center. So
that's great.
It's great.
Because I've talked to educators about this over the years. Everyone doesn't need to go to the university. It's not going to meet the needs of where they want to go and need to go in life. And there's a huge amount of technical school that needs to happen just for the survival of a community. For the survival, a lot of times these guys are coming out and they're making a whole lot of dollars, and they're building businesses.
Right. No, absolutely. A lot of the programs over there, they tie in the business startup aspect of it, along with the skill set that they're taking with them when they graduate from Lake Tech. So I think that this is a game changer in Lake County, definitely, because we really have been lacking in that area up to this point. We didn't have the fabrication, the the welding, the slots were so limited in the space, literally, the space they had over there for welding. Now we're going to have a very large building in the rear portion of the existing school, and the kids over there, the students, they're actually, working on their own welding booths, and they're doing some
Well,
of the HVAC.
welding is a big deal. It's a lot of money. There are very few people who are doing it and doing it well. And I was looking up entrepreneurial jobs, or not necessarily entrepreneurial, but jobs that bring in a lot of money. One is welding.
Right.
It's up in those high pay brackets, underwater welding as well as above, land welding. So just great stuff that you're doing and that's happening here. You've got a personal interest here in this county because this is home. This is a home you grew up in, not just a home you moved to. Well, that's it for today's episode with Leslie Campione. Don't miss next episode, episode 2, where she finishes her interview and gives you some great value bombs and things that are going to light you up on the next episode of Youth Worker on Fire.